Ready?
We're ready. Let's do it.
Good evening. Welcome to the September 20th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I would request that everyone would please turn off or mute all electronic devices, including cell phones. Also at this time, I would invite everyone to stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Applications for conditional use permit requests heard during tonight's meeting will be voted on by the Commission, and the Commission will make a recommendation to the County Council. The applications will then be scheduled to be introduced before the County Council at their Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 County Council meeting. Public comment for conditional use permit requests will be taken during tonight's meeting and at the council meeting on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023. Public comment on conditional use permit applications will not be taken at any meeting of the County Council held thereafter. Applications for preliminary plats heard during tonight's meeting will be voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission during the meeting. The vote on preliminary plats is final. Only a recommendation for denial of a preliminary plat would be heard before the County Council at their Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 meeting. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Those documents are the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, the year 2030 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2030 Future Land Use Plan Map, and the Rules of Order and Procedure for the Planning and Zoning Commission as adopted by Resolution 21-01. I see that we have a quorum. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to open the meeting. All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're in business. Brief overview for the meeting. Our procedure is I will read into the record the application. We'll ask the staff for their report. Commission may or may not have questions for the staff at that time. Then we'll ask the applicant to come forward and present the application and answer any questions that the Commission may have. Then we will open the application up for a public hearing. Anyone wishing to come and speak regarding the application can come and speak. Then we will close the public hearing, ask the applicant to come back, address any concerns that may have come up during the public hearing. And after that, then the Commission will take a vote on the application. If you're going to speak, we ask that you fill out one of these cards. They're right on the corner of the table up here. This ensures that we get your name, address, etc. correct in our minutes. With our agenda, where'd my agenda go? We have several tabled items, continued items. Zoning map amendment request located at 24 Main Street. Conditional use permit amendment located at 24 Main Street. Preliminary plat for Tall Tree. This is at 9260 and 1010-2 Highway Double D. All of those items will remain continued. If you're here for one of those items, those will not be heard during tonight's meeting. Okay, the first item on our agenda is conditional use permit located at 8073 Hawk Ridge Trail. Application number CUP 23-19. Property owners of the estate of Clifford and Elwanda Brown. The applicant is O.V. Cotis for Carfan LLC. Current zoning is A Agricultural District. Proposed zoning is C2 General Commercial District. Conditional use request is automobile sales. The location is on the northeast corner of Hawk Ridge Trail and Mingo Lane, adjacent to the city of Lake St. Louis and the city of O'Fallon. This is located in Council District 2. Staff.
You may remember an application on the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last month for rezoning for the same property. So that application from agricultural district to C2 general commercial district is now before the county council. They've introduced that bill. They've not decided upon that. So the applicant at his own risk has proceeded with applying for the conditional use permit. So should the rezoning be approved, the conditional use permit will not be able to, will not be able to move forward. But for the purpose of analysis, the county staff's memo assumes that the rezoning has been approved, because otherwise the analysis wouldn't make any sense. But the application for the conditional use permit is, again, with proposed C2 zoning, and is for automobile sales. Now, the parcel itself is not that large. It's about a half an acre, and it's along Hawk Ridge Trail. It's near the intersection or the interchange for I-64 and Highway N, so there's a lot of commercial activity in that area. 0.4 miles to the west, I think it's called the Hawk Ridge Commercial Center. You've got the Walmart there, and I think it's a Lowe's. You know, it's really regional shopping. To the south, on the south side of Hawk Ridge, the southwest, you've got a electric substation. To the south, it's vacant. But just recently, within the last couple of years, they built, I think it's called Dynaflex, which I'm not sure if that's an office warehouse or light manufacturing, exactly what that is, but it's a pretty large-scale building. And then towards the east, you have a tire center. Now, having said that, right next to this property that we're talking about is single-family residential. There's a small subdivision called Bates Subdivision, so there's a house right next door to it. And then beyond that, there's a house that has been converted to outdoor storage yard for Acculift. So the reason I'm mentioning this is the context is really mixed. I want you to get a sense of that. The request here, again, is for automobile sales. The applicant's narrative says, I think, 20 to 30 cars, but when you look at the concept plan and landscape plan, they're showing room for about 15 automobiles, give or take. And I just wanted to point that out. The house that's there now was built in 1960, and there's a shed that's built in 1994. So the plan is, I understand it, to convert the house to an office and the shed to, for light maintenance for cars and light cleaning of the cars before they're offered for sale. The shed, it has a residential setback. So right now it's only 7 feet from the northern property line. And again, there's the house next door to it. So I just wanted to point that out. As you know, the conditional use permit analysis is based on specific criteria, and county staff memo goes into much greater detail than I will. So feel free to look at your memo if, for anyone here that wants to have a better understanding of these criteria. But the first criteria is, would establishing, maintaining, or operating a conditional use be detrimental to or endanger public health, safety, or the general welfare? And I would say, despite the potential noise impacts, I don't think it would rise to being detrimental to the, or endangering public health, safety, or the general welfare. Would the conditional use injure the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purposes already permitted? And I would say, based on anticipated land use impacts, such as noise caused by car maintenance and minor repairs, can be addressed by requiring that automotive work take place indoors and be limited to specific hours. And what I'm talking about in terms of automobile noise, if you've ever experienced auto body shop, or not, sorry, that's not a good example because they're not doing auto body. If you've ever experienced a car repair shop, there's a couple of things. First, you hear the tools, pneumatic tools, for instance. Sometimes you hear a revving of engines, and there's some other noise as well. Let's see, just general car repair noises. Now, for larger automobile dealerships, One of the letters mentions this, but for a lot of larger automobile dealerships, you'll have loudspeakers, but they don't really use those for the small car repair places like we're talking about here. So yes, if this were a large car dealership, they have these loudspeaker systems, that might be a concern for neighbors. But that's not the case here. Would the conditional use injure the aesthetic and/or scenic values of the vicinity? I would just note that there's going to be screening along the northern, eastern property lines closest to residences. Would the conditional use substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood? County staff does not have any evidence of that. And would the conditional use impede the normally and orderly development and improvement of surrounding property for uses permitted in the zoning district? This is kind of interesting because the county's future land use plan recommends future commercial for that entire area. So obviously for future land uses, it really would not have any impact. I would say for the two residences right next door, potentially it could have impacts, but I don't think that given installation of the landscape buffers, it would impede improvement of those properties. I think there is a way for both those uses to be next door and be compatible. So county staff recommends approval with specific conditions to address the land use impacts.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Okay, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or in the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
O.V. Cotis, 809 Topsfield Drive, Lake St. Louis.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is O.V. Cotis, and I represent CarFan LLC. We're a used car dealership. We've been in business for about 4 years, located in Washington, Missouri. And we're currently looking at relocating to the Lake St. Louis area, so I don't have to do the commute every day. And I think the Lake St. Louis area is in much need of a great service of quality vehicles at affordable prices. The application that's in front of us today, CUP 2319, is at 8073 Hawk Ridge Trail. And as mentioned by staff, a few weeks ago, I was here before you guys, before the commission, and you were kind enough to give me a 6-0 in favor of approving the rezoning of this property. So I'm standing here before you today to ask for the same vote of confidence for the conditional use permit. I did bring the concept plan. Hopefully this works. It's my first time using it. Here we go. Is there a zoom button? Try to enlarge that a little bit.
There should be a plus sign.
Yeah.
That black bar. Yeah, right there.
Okay. The top left corner kind of shows you the area of the property. It's this corner property here. And this is the Firestone. Right now there's like a pet place here, pet hospital place or something like that. So as you can see in the current condition, there's an along in the front here along Hawk Ridge Trail, and then it exits around the same area. My intended future use for this is to have an entry here on Hawk Ridge Trail and then exit on Mingo Lane. This would help even with when we bring cars to load and unload, we would park them here on the side street, not to impact any traffic here in the front. The staff mentioned in my narrative that we were thinking about 30 cars. It was actually 15 to 20, And the architect came up with, I think, 15 spots here, if I counted correctly. So that would be the approximate size. 15 to 20 cars is what I envisioned. And there is a barn here currently that we intend to bring up to standards for a garage, like a 2 large over bay door garage. And turn the front of the current residential house, the front of it, into offices and a waiting area. Overall, that's about it. If there are any questions, I can help answer.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, you said something about using the Mango Lane.
Sir, you have to wait till public hearing. You can't ask him questions.
Oh.
Only, yes, that's fine. The questions from the commission. So any questions?
I do. Yeah, how many cars do you sell in Washington, Missouri? Like,
Monthly?
average week, yeah.
We're a smaller dealership, so monthly we sell probably a range of 10, 15, 7, 15 per month.
Per month, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're planning on having all the parks within those designated parking spaces, and they're not gonna be, sometimes you have too much space in those smaller car dealerships where you have them lined up. That's not the intention here. You're gonna use the designated spaces.
Right, correct,
For the concept
yes.
plan?
That's
Okay.
correct, yes. And then we'll have landscaping here along the front and the buffers on the back here and the side. Yes.
So where will your customers park?
I'm sorry?
Where will your customers park?
There is area here in front of the house. There's a current driveway, and then there's like a garage here, so we intend to, it's not shown here, but I'll work with the architect to show some spaces here for customer
You
parking.
expect to have like no more than 2 or 3 customers at a time, basically?
I would say there's probably room for, I'll try to come up with 4 parking spots. If needed, obviously, we'll make space, in one or 2 of the empty spots if there are any.
Now, will your lot be paved?
Yes, that's one of the conditions. We'll have to pave the entire area here in the front.
Okay. What type of lighting will you have?
LED lighting, I plan on having LED lighting.
Any other,
Another concern I have is just that the entrance that you have along, the southern entrance along Hawk Ridge Trail, it's pretty close to the intersection. Would you be open, I know you said one way in, would you be open to restricting any type of exits out of there with your concept? A lot of times you try to limit curb cuts from intersections. If you have too many, you have too many conflict points and backups.
Yes, I
That's
can
a busy
understand that
area,
concern.
so-
But I mean, all the businesses along the street have that entrance, on the main entrance on Hawk Ridge Trail.
Yeah, are they that close to an intersection? I don't think they are.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, if that's one of the conditions, I mean, I'm open to that. I would prefer to have one way in and out, so it's a little smoother.
Yeah,
But-
just want to give you some
yeah.
awareness to that, because
Sure.
staff's probably going to restrict it with your site plan, but we can ask them about that too.
Sure, yeah.
So.
So to clarify, that's the entrance, and then they would have to exit along Mingo Lane. Nobody's exiting onto Hawk Ridge Trail from that particular?
I
they'd
mean, it's
exiting
gonna be a
from Mingo?
two-way, but the intent is, like, you wouldn't be turning around on the spot here, you would enter here. Now, I mean, if somebody comes in on Mingo Lane and they, turn inside this way, they could exit that way as well.
Okay, so it's not a one-way? They could
It's
come
not a
in and out
one-way,
either
it's
way.
not
Okay.
intended like that, but it's just intended to have 2 exit points, basically.
Yeah, I
to
think you're going to
reduce-
run into issues with that though if you have parking,
Yeah,
additional
and-
vehicles parked along the house.
Yeah,
not
and
a designated
I'm not
space.
sure what he was trying, again, this is just a rough draft.
Okay.
But there's the possibility of moving this whole row next to the house to leave more room between the cars. The parking of the car display can be rearranged however it needs to be met and for safe, car travel through there.
what is your hours of, planned hours of
It'll be
operation?
planned hours of operation 10 to 6, so we'll wrap it up by 6.
From
in
what
the
day?
evening. Monday through Saturday.
Not open on Sunday?
No.
Isn't there some kind of legal requirement that car dealerships can't
That's
be open
correct.
on Sunday? Yeah,
That's correct, yeah.
I found that quite annoying.
It's a good day to buy a car.
Any other questions? Well, I have one more. What type of security will you have?
We currently have a security system, cameras and alarm, so I intend to bring that over, alarm system, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now we will open the public hearing for CUP 23-19. Anyone wishing to speak? You can come forward and ask your. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Gilbert Phillips. Gilbert Phillips.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Phillips.
live at 10 Mingo Lane.
Okay,
And that is still a residential neighborhood. And I can foresee a lot of problems with noise. I don't quite understand how they're gonna enter and exit off of Mingo Lane. If you look at the grade variations, and I don't know if the state will even approve it, because that Mingo Lane was put in by MoDOT. So I don't think you're gonna have an entrance and an exit. You're gonna have one way in and that's it. The other thing is, what is the guarantee that these are gonna be nice cars? What if they bring some junkers in? It's an auto. And I gotta drive past it, and if I walk in my front yard, I gotta see it. And I don't want the extra noise. The highway's noisy enough. Lake St. Louis did us a favor and let them put a kennel on two sides of my property, which is really nice. I got dogs barking now, and they're working on that problem. I just don't see that little bitty lot is gonna do enough business to survive. And also, they're also putting together for that property to the west of us. That's in a planning stage now, from Lake St. Louis, that they're gonna redo that existing property there. And they've got drawings coming out, what they're gonna do at Mingo Lane to get out on and off that highway. So I don't think you got enough room to put it in there. I really don't. And like I said, I live there. I don't want the noise and the racket. I don't want impact wrenches running. And it's gonna happen. I can guarantee it's gonna happen. So I'm adamantly against it, you know. Not having better access to the roads, and with the neighbors, the one neighbor that lives on the end, I mean, his house is 25 foot off of where their garage is at. You can't tell me that's not gonna disturb somebody. And that's probably about all I got to say.
okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. If somebody in the back can pull up the, what do you call
It's
this?
up.
Oh, okay, cool. My name is Arnie C., A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, and my mailing address is P.O. Box 1535 in O'Fallon. And I first want to start out by testifying before the commission that this is a changing neighborhood. We see a lot of changing uses. Over the last decade, there's been substantial commercial growth in terms of technology, high-tech corridor, commercial, service-related industries, and light manufacturing with the dental manufacturing plant with their corporate headquarters in this neighborhood. Now, in terms of the gentleman's application, I read his application and supported his zoning change last month, but I have some problems with this application currently. I don't believe that there's enough assurances from both the applicant and both in the staff recommendations, and that there's safe gaps to protect the person who testified before me who lives directly to the rear of this property. I have many concerns with this property. The first issue is with the barn, the structural of an old, uncompliant building, and also the home on the property that really hasn't been updated or to come in compliance with the current codified code of the county. I would ask that one condition that any buildings on the property that are being occupied be brought up to compliance with the 2022 or earlier edition adopted by the County Council of the International Building Code. And this would require ADA ramp accessibility. This would require ADA restrooms for the public usage. And it would be, unfortunately, a substantial investment and capital investment by the property owner, which I feel he needs to do in terms of this application. That capital improvement will increase property values and also protect the adjoining neighbors. Americans with Disabilities compliance with the parking spaces, I don't see that depicted on the application in Exhibit B that was submitted by the applicant. And I'm sorry for the size. I tried to make it enlarge just the bottom portion, but I couldn't get it to print properly to enhance that. Maybe planning staff has a larger depiction. There also is questions with Americans with Disabilities door access to the waiting room that's open to the public. And also, I am most confident that that home is not accessible or accommodating with Americans with Disability equipped bathrooms to comply with both state law and our county codified ordinance. There needs to be traffic protections. If you've been down on this property, both in the mornings and evenings, it's a high traffic, high yielding area that's ever growing with subdivisions and businesses. I'd recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission that another condition be added at the bottom for a right-in and right-out only exit and entrance into the facility, and also a condition that no left turns are to be allowed on Highway N, also known as Hawk Ridge Boulevard. There will need to be approval from the Missouri Department of Transportation. I've been on the phone today with the St. Louis District Office about this situation. They didn't know what I was talking about because the applicant has not made an application or asked for construction permits or looking at his design plan, which is an approval form that needs to be looked at into by MoDOT, and that has not been done as of today. I would ask that this property owner hook up to both the City of Darden Prairie, Lake St. Louis, and the City of O'Fallon with either a 10-foot trail, multi-use path in the front of the property along Hawk Ridge Boulevard, also known as Missouri Highway N. And in lieu of the 10-foot multi-use package, and Mr. Cornwell worked for the City of O'Fallon, so he knows what I'm talking about. In lieu of that, I would ask that you require at least a minimum of a 5-foot wide ADA compliant sidewalk. Some of the current conditions are that all landscaping buffers illustrated on the approved site shall be maintained in a healthy condition with disease and or dead trees replaced. I would ask that we have a landscape buffer to have a some type of separation between the C2 zoning and the A1 zoning in the rear that was testified from the gentleman before myself. All parking must occur in vehicular parking in storage areas. Well, if you look at this plan, as you see, there are 15 total spaces that are depicted on the diagram. He didn't add the other ones in front of the home or the residential home. So if you have 2 employees at a minimum, that would require 2 parking spaces. Customer parking needs 3 spaces. ADA space required by codified code and state law would be 1. And cars for sale would be 10, that would be the 15. So I'd ask a condition of the Planning and Zoning Commission that you limit the amount of used or new vehicles to 10 is the maximum. And that there should be no parking on any grass facades, and that it must be parked on a solid blacktop or concrete surface. I would also like, let's see here, continuing with the conditions, all stored automobiles must remain assembled and in road-ready condition. Number 5, automobile parts, tires, oil shall be stored indoors. And I would ask that you put in the word barrels or chemicals, also be stored inside. And that automobile maintenance shall only take place indoors and operate between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. My recommendation is to change the hours of operation to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Also, I would like a condition added that no outside work be performed outside of the building, and a condition that no unloading or loading of vehicles be allowed on any public roadway, and that's either Mingo Lane or Hawk Ridge Trail. And then the applicant never spoke about, and it's a big concern to me, and I'm sure to the neighbors and the neighborhood as a whole, is what about the retention to comply with state and county M4 regulations and rules? I don't see that even talked about in the application. It's not in his diagram, and since we're taking away absorbable type land soil, I think that needs to be accounted for. There are some noise concerns in this situation, again, I just wanted to go over a couple issues. The hours of operation, I think it's more conducive to be 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Limit the amount of outdoor vehicles to 10 vehicles. And and the other thing that I wanted to touch upon is what may work in Franklin County does not fly or is not acceptable here in our high standards here in St. Charles County. This is a very classy neighborhood. It's a first-class neighborhood. People have put in substantial amount of investment in both the businesses to comply with the City of O'Fallon, unincorporated, the City of Garden Prairie, the City of Lake St. Louis codified codes of building requirements and facade requirements, landscape requirements. This applicant needs to be held to the same standard as those other people. And let's not forget about the people of the Springhurst neighborhood that have between $350,000 to $500,000 homes and condos. I think that their property values need to be instilled and protected. I hope you heard my comments loud and clear, and I hope that you make some additional conditions and have this applicant live to the same standards that everybody else in the neighborhood is bringing up those properties as previously over the last 2 decades. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there's any questions, I'll entertain them.
Any questions for Mr. Denoff?
Got a comment, though. Just on the recommendations, Arnie, number 1 is a site plan conforming to the concept plan attached as part of Exhibit B shall be submitted and approved by St. Charles County. So I know this is an architect provided this site plan, but when the site plan actually gets approved, they're going to have handicap parking spots. They're going to have, I suspect, lighting and all the stuff that's going to be required as part of a site plan submittal.
What about retention, detention?
That will still have to be required.
It's
for requirements.
It's on this one, if you look at it.
Is it?
Yep, stormwater management. Left-hand side.
Oh, I do, it's small, I do see it. But does it meet the M4, our new M4 requirements?
Well,
Can you ask
It's going to
that?
have to.
County.
Oh,
It's going to
okay.
have, number,
It's gonna have to be
condition
designed
1.
by a civil, not
Gotcha.
an architect.
Yeah.
To
Gotcha.
determine that, that's later in the process.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing for CUP 23-19. Ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Beggar?
Yeah, sir, you made the comment that employee parking was going to park in the drive aisles and other stuff like that, and I don't think that's permitted. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but all parking needs to be done within the designated parking spots, whether you've got cars stored there or you have employees parking there. Because otherwise, you're going to turn into a congested mess of a property right there.
Yeah, so we'll have the employees park wherever the county recommends, you know, wherever it needs to
I'm
be.
just following up what you said, though, was you said that they were going to park.
The customers, yeah. The question was asked about the customers
Yeah.
parking, and I mentioned they were going to park in the front here.
I think he was saying he was gonna make some parking.
Oh, you're going to make
Yes.
some, oh, okay.
This is
I
a
didn't
rough draft.
understand
There's
that.
going to be another revision.
Okay.
Yeah, you probably have space back by the existing barn.
Okay, I didn't understand. I understood you, I understood the comment that you were, they were just going to park outside that parking spots, and that's not acceptable.
No, and also here, there's a chain link fence currently connecting from the barn to the house. And this is just landscaping currently. So we can also just come straight across here to come up with additional parking if needed.
Are you planning on doing any modifications to any of the existing structures?
Yes,
And does that include abiding by the ADA, American Disabilities Act? Of making
yes,
it
those
passable?
were mentioned in the,
I figured it probably was.
yes, those were mentioned.
Again,
and I was-
condition one states that it has to be per. the county
Yes,
approved.
the disability parking was mentioned, and also for the entrance and the restrooms, and all those were mentioned in the feedback that I got from the staff.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, are you required to have public restrooms? I mean, obviously, if you have them, they would have to be ADA accessible, but do you have to have public
Yeah, I'm not
restrooms?
sure, that's something the staff mentioned.
Just curious.
There is a restroom, obviously, now in the house, and we will bring it up to code, whatever it needs to be, but in the comments, it was mentioned something along the lines of having a water fountain, bathroom, a water closet, so I'm not sure on what the requirements are on all those things, but if whatever is required, we will meet those requirements.
And looking at this proposed site plan where the chain link fence is, so the note said it's going to remain.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's what he has on the concept plan.
And so the ground behind the house was just not going to be used?
Correct. And also, this is a preliminary, I want to mention that this is just a preliminary, short-term plan. The long-term plan is to demolish everything and come up with a current, new building with 4 overhead large bay doors and office in the front, so.
When you did the survey, was that chain link fence? It's hard to tell. Is that on your it
Yes.
looks like it's your chain link fence?
Yes, this is on the property here. This property here, the 8073, goes all the way to the corner and front here, it's a square.
I think the question is if you're providing privacy to residential to the north, would you be open to changing that to privacy fence in lieu of having chain link?
This one here?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
To the north?
Yeah, I appreciate the neighbors' concerns. And in the comments from the staff, they did ask, I think, for a type 2 buffer here because currently that barn is built to residential distance. So we will add extra buffer to minimize the noise. Also, I want to touch on a little bit of the quality of cars that we bring at
Sorry, speak to us.
we'll be bringing at the car lot. I don't mess with, rundown cars. It's a range from 5 to 20,000, 25,000. We try to hit different, price points for everyone, but they're good quality cars, and I have a 4.7 review rating on Google right now, so I stand behind the service that we provide and the vehicles that we sell, so. I believe, yeah, that's, and the detention, retention pond area, yes, that's noted on the concept plan.
Any other questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now bring application CUP 23-19. This is a CUP to operate a automobile sales facility on the northeast corner of Hawkridge Trail and Mingo Lane, adjacent to the city of Lake St. Louis and city of O'Fallon. This is contingent upon the ground being rezoned from currently A agricultural to C2 general commercial district. Any questions for staff? Comments?
Yeah, Robert, a couple questions. Mingo Road and Hawk Ridge Trail, are they both maintained by MoDOT? So they're gonna have to pull a commercial permit with MoDOT for those entrances?
I can't remember about Mingo, but Hawk Ridge Trail, yes. So obviously they'll have to get permits for that. Also, across the Mingo Lane to the west, there's a 12-acre tract in the city of Lake St. Louis. So in May of this year, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a preliminary plat for a 12-acre retail center. It's going to have 5 lots, and they're going to build a new private street within that commercial subdivision. One entrance will be on Hawk Ridge Trail, the other entrance will be on Mingo Lane, approximately across from this driveway. So when we, at the site plan stage, we'll have to ensure that the driveways line up, or we address somehow, the traffic crossover. But things will be changing in this area, regardless if this project goes forward or not.
To the gentleman's comment about Mingo Lane and just its current condition, is the other development to the west and widening that area that's gonna impact this site at all? Or have you seen those plans, or is that Lake St. Louis that's reviewing that?
Widening, I'm sorry, I missed.
Making improvements to Mingo Lane.
Oh, Mingo Lane.
Yeah.
I didn't look into that, but I was thinking as part of the discussion, it is possible to petition the St. Charles County Council to post no parking signs if parking would become a problem along the street. And that's a typical process that goes through the Highway Department. Highway Department sets up a public hearing before the County Council, and the County Council considers that.
If they're gonna have a bunch of commercial stuff out there, you're gonna have big trucks bringing things in, and to your point, how is that kind of, I guess it's not our problem at this point in time, but.
No, it needs to be improved, so this development's really not gonna be impacting it. It's the development of the west which isn't our call, but just letting him know that, yes, that's probably gonna be changing, potentially, but.
Robert, do you know if they're building any sidewalk along Hawks Ridge Trail as part of that Lake St. Louis development?
I don't, unfortunately. I didn't look to that level. Wait one second, let me see if I can
Because I
find-
think if they are, I think we should probably look at doing the same.
Yeah, and does the county requirements require that, Robert, that as they develop those lots, that you have to do the sidewalk extension?
We look at that at the site plan approval stage. So honestly, I think we would get into that specific question at that time when the site plan is proposed. I'm looking at the preliminary plat right now for the
This is where the.
subdivision to the west called Highway N Retail. It's kind of a nondescript name. Let's see if I see a sidewalk.
Here it is, I guess that's it. Yep. Yeah, there looks like there's a sidewalk there.
Yeah, I can,
On
well, I live in the area, if I can help
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
To the east, there is
Yeah.
at least a sidewalk along that side of the road that goes in
Uh-huh.
front of the Firestone, and the no leash needed, the dog kennel that the one gentleman had talked about. There is a sidewalk that at least extends that far right now on that side, coming from the east.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it in
Yeah.
one
Yeah,
of
you
these
can see it.
pictures. It just ends where the residential stuff starts.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Any comments?
One more, I'm sorry. So given, and I know they're gonna look at this as the site, but do you guys allow parallel parking and striping and stuff like that? This is tight the way it looks right now, even if they make improvements to get
Yeah.
cars, so.
Do we allow parallel?
Well, just have a lane and then there's parallel, I
Oh,
just
I
don't know,
see.
I don't know how you're gonna get
Yeah.
more parks out of this unless you extend the parks to the north. It's gonna be tight,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Take the fence down and go behind.
I think-
Yeah, that's gonna be it.
The
And
en-
even
um,
that's tight.
The engineer will have to work out, like, the geometrics of that. Now, if a concept is approved by the county council, county staff has the ability to approve a site plans with minor amendments to that concept plan. So there could be a little bit of give and take in terms of the parking and extending into that rear yard area.
Yeah.
But they would not be able to just totally take over that rear yard area with parking without coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. But the other thing is the way I have interpreted the parking requirements and the striping and all that, I've always interpreted that for like customers and employees. Just for automobile storage, I haven't necessarily been requiring striping and things like that. So I guess if you're just storing automobiles, you could probably find ways to park them closer together or end to end, some things like that to get a few more.
Yeah, because when you go to most other large car lots, I don't think they've got them so close together, it's hard to get between them.
Yeah, I can just see a situation where you've got everybody stacking up on this 24-foot lane, and then you can't
Yeah.
get in there, and then you're wanting two-way, and it just becomes, a lot of small vehicle storage lots have that issue.
My biggest concern with automobile lots is that a lot of them, I shouldn't say my biggest concern, but one concern is that they park on the grass in the front to try to attract attention. And so that's why this one condition is suggested about parking in designated areas.
That is really common, you're right.
And I can't see in a car lot with 10 cars that 5 people are gonna descend on it at the same time,
Probably not.
you know, most of the time. You're gonna have probably somebody comes in to look at a car because they saw it online, and they're gonna come look and see if they want it, type of thing.
It's more of an inventory. It's more they'll throw 25 cars in an
Yeah.
area they can't fill that. It's not so much the customers, and
Yeah.
then to Robert's point, they're in the grass and everything else, and that happens a lot, so. But, Robert, you've got the condition number 3, yeah, restricts that from happening, so.
Robert, will we address signage when we get the formal plan?
Because the only thing we're approving today is conditional use, right?
Yeah.
Right, the site plan would show the location of a sign, but they're gonna have to apply for a sign permit.
Permit, yeah,
Yes, separately.
yeah,
And that will be reviewed and approved by county staff.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, he's gonna have an awful lot of hurdles to overcome
Yeah.
on his site plan, regardless of what we do here.
Right, because it's a tight site, you're redeveloping a house.
Yep.
And there was a question about ADA requirements. If it were brand-new building, I know that there's very specific requirements,
Be
but when
grandfathered.
it's converted,
Yep.
I think there's a little more flexibility, so I can't answer positively exactly what the facility is going to end up like for ADA.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, just going back to that sidewalk issue for the 12-acre Lake St. Louis, I would say that if that is if that's a reality, if we know what's going on there, then obviously we need to require that extension along this part. Because like has been pointed out, there's a sidewalk to the east, and yeah, there's a gap, but, you know, MoDOT or someone's gonna have to step up and fill this gap in.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need to, council, do we need to add that
We
to
had this-
this?
Or can that be part of the site plan?
You think they'll cover it in there?
Yeah, I mean, the site plan requirements, there's like 25 requirements, and one of those is to, at that point, sidewalks can be required.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm fine with that.
okay.
Can we make a condition that it conforms with MoDOT's requirements for the entrance too? And add that to condition number 1, potentially? Have we done that before?
Isn't that, the
And the only, from my perspective, right, since we have that approach, is sometimes when you go with these other organizations, they'll condition their approval on us having like full zoning approval or something like that, so you end up having kind of a catch-22 in there, where ours, their allowance is conditional upon our allowance, but our allowance is conditional on their allowance, so it's a little bit of,
I get
you
it,
know,
I'm
a
just
little bit
trying
of
to
danger.
avoid on
I get it,
Manchester
yeah.
Road, so.
yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 23-19. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Shell, second by Ms. Bamer. Ms. Barr, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Application is approved. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the re-subdivision of Lot 17A of Hickorydale re-subdivision. Application number PRE 23-09. The property owner is IXP Thompson.
Bless you.
Don't know where that came from. Property owner is IXP Thompson, 422-296 LLC, Michael Thompson. Engineer is Cardinal Surveying and Mapping. Current zoning is R1E, Single Family Residential District. The plat area is .58 acres. Proposed lots are 2. The location is the northwest corner of Labonte Drive and Hickorydale Drive. This is located in Council District 7. Staff.
This is a simple application to divide one lot into 2. The applicants obtain a conditional use permit for relief for side yard setbacks, but not for minimum lot size. So these lots will meet the minimum lot size, but will have different, have approval for different side yard setbacks. And the site already has utilities such as public sewer service. Labonte Drive on the west is not paved. I guess you'd call it like a gravel street. And, but Hickorydale Drive is a paved street. And there's been a redevelopment basically across the street from here that came before a few months ago to do something similar, to split one lot into 2. But county staff finds that that meets the technical requirements of Chapter 410 of the subdivision regulations.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicant to come forward. Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm as you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings and the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Thompson, 12 Twin Hollow Court, O'Fallon, Missouri.
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
So, I can give you a little background. We did a COP cup permit that he mentioned, and that got approved before. Just putting 2 houses that I'll keep myself. Actually, my mother-in-law is probably going to move into one out of Illinois, and the other one I'll rent out. I own about 8 right now, 8 rental houses. I tend to rent, 40 to 50-year-olds and up. So it's not, it never will be a HUD home or something like that. Why would I put somebody in a new home that would tear it up? But the one house is going up. I feel like I've improved the subdivision. I'm raising the value of the houses. The Labonte Drive is a very, very odd road. It's owned by no one. It's not owned by the county. I've done 2 separate searches on it, road letters, everything. Nobody owns it. There's been ruts in it, and I recently put 75 tons of rock on it to actually make it usable past up to my property, and I cut a little entrance in so construction work could happen and they could get in the back. But other than that, I mean, all the neighbors, I know there's one neighbor in particular that does not like anything going on in the subdivision. But I do have signed letters from neighbors on both sides of me, and that next to Labonte that agreed to that they're absolutely fine with the lot being split into 2 if that's in question.
Any questions for the applicant? Hearing none, thank you, sir. We'll now open the public hearing for application PRE 23-09. Anyone here wishing to speak regarding this application? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dinoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535 in O'Fallon. And I remember this coming up back in the spring, and I thought everything was taken care of in terms of the minimum lot width and the side yard setback. But it's getting to the point where this is a density issue. And I know they're in the middle of construction, which is kind of putting some more issues into the ring here and for consideration. I'm not sure exactly why this problem wasn't found faster or before the construction permit was issued by county staff, but I really had some real heartburn in terms of the county issuing a building permit when there were outstanding issues. They're now coming back and asking for approval for 2 lots. And they're asking for a reduction in the minimum lot size of under 7,000 square feet. Pros and cons about if this is consistent with the neighborhood in terms of the lot sizes, but there definitely are some density concerns here. There's also a concern about the total square footage. Our codified code per home has a minimum construction of at least 500 square feet. I'm not sure what this building permit was issued with, what the construction was. They didn't put that on the diagram. They put the I didn't calculate the square footage of the home, but that would kind of answer one of my questions. But as we go forward with granting minimum lot widths from 70 to 60 feet, sidewalks, setbacks from 7 to 6 feet, it just adds to more issues. And if we don't put fire separation walls into place, we are jeopardizing families across St. Charles County in terms of public health, safety, and welfare. And a couple items in the last couple of months where there were some fires. One is off of Interstate Drive in the city of Wentzville, where they asked for side reduction sizes from 7 foot down to 5 foot. And there was a car that was parked in the garage. Unfortunately, that car caught on fire when the family wasn't at home. It burned for hours, and it not only burned the home to the right, it did about $100,000 worth of damage, but it also did about $60,000 worth of damage to the house to the left. And so the more dense that we allow people to go, the more allowing or changing our minimum requirements of the codified code, the more the public safety, health, and welfare come into play, and that there needs to be fire separation walls. In this case, I'm opposed of going any further. You've already gone 2 variances already. The 3rd variance, in my opinion, is not warranted. It's kind of a mishap. I don't understand, again, why staff didn't catch this at the forefront, but we're now in middle of construction. I'll leave the decision up to you, but I'm opposed to granting any more relief or any more variances to this property owner or applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak regarding application PRE 23-09? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing for PRE 23-09. Ask the applicant to come back.
I'm getting old, my vision's going.
Any questions for the applicant? Craig?
What about what Mr. Dienoff has said? Do you have any answers for any of that?
Yeah, I took some notes, and I appreciate your concerns. It's 0.59 acres. I divided it directly in half, so it's over a quarter-acre lot size, which if you look at a lot of these high-density subdivisions going in, they are 7,000 square feet. This is, almost 11,000 square feet lot, okay? House size, I kept it, they'll be identical houses. I might change a little bit to try and make it look nicer, just different, instead of 2 houses that look identical, so it don't look like an army base, like some of the subdivisions. But, like the one I live in, but, it's 1,135 square foot house, which in that subdivision, they range from 800 to maybe 1,400 if they turn the garage over the years into a room. I've kept the houses itself are 19 feet apart. I've kept 22 feet off Labonte Drive just to give some space there. Should we put some trees up or something? And then the lot next to me, it's a younger couple and who owned this before, I guess, years ago, divided this off, and her property actually L's behind mine. And my property goes right up against her, and the minimum width, if you go to the new laws, you have to have 7 feet, I believe, between the two, between houses or off the property line rather. I've left 21 feet there, with the option, and I talked to her, I said, hey, if I give you a couple more feet, so you're actually within what the new code is, give me a couple feet back that I don't need that land, just so I can help them out. So look, they actually have it, and their mailbox is actually on my property. And I'm like, leave your mailbox where it's at. I'll give you a couple feet of property. She's gonna have to pay for that to happen, because I've paid enough. But I'm like, if you wanna pay for it, you can have it. Give me a couple feet behind me and it's fine. I feel like I'm a pretty fair guy, and I've been keeping everything looking very nice in the subdivision. And it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, walkout basement. It's not your typical 2-car garage. It's not your typical rental that you would throw in there. I mean, this is my retirement plan, to have nicer houses that I can hang on to. When I retire, I'll sell them, and the subdivision will be great. I've had numerous neighbors stop by, look at it. I mean, I've had one offer to even already buy it, another one trying to rent it from me already. So I don't see a lot of upset people in the neighborhood, so I was surprised to get a question on 7,000 square foot lot, though.
Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We will now bring application PRE 23-09 to the Commission for consideration. This is the re-subdivision of Lot 17A of Hickory Dale re-subdivision, located at 501 Hickory Dale. Any questions for staff, comments?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. Mr. Denoff asked a question about why the construction had already started. My understanding is the construction on one house has already started, but not the second. Is that correct?
Right. So you can get, right now it's one lot, and you can get a permit to build one house on one lot. And if the plat is not approved, the outcome would be still have one house on one lot. But if the plat is approved, they can build a second house on 2 lots, and each one of them is going to have to be positioned so they'll meet all the setback requirements.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Any comments? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve application
So
PRE
moved.
Seconded.
dash 09.
I think we're all in.
Let's say I have a second, but who made the motion? You did?
I never
Okay.
motion anything.
trying to get it
Okay, Mr. Baker, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
Ms. Kirchner?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Ms. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, moving right along.
Oh, yeah, he will.
You gotta remember, I'm old, I can't hear. Where am I at? Okay. Next on our agenda is conditional use permit, CUP 23-21. It's located at 1894 North Point Prairie Road. The property owner is Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, Missouri. Applicant is Cell Active Solutions by Susan Story. Current zoning is A Agricultural District. The conditional use request is a telecommunications tower, 154 feet in height, and ground equipment. The location is east of North Point Prairie Road and south of Highway 61, adjacent to the city of Wentzville and the city of Flint Hill. This is located in Council District 1. Staff.
As you mentioned, the location is just off of North Point Prairie Road, where North Point Prairie Road crosses Highway 61 at an angle. But the subject property is not located right on North Point Prairie Road. As a matter of fact, there's a long driveway towards the east that goes to this property. The property is now used for, Ameren, Missouri or Missouri, as you said, will have has an electric
From the Boot
substation.
Hill over here.
Well,
Has an electric
It's in Missouri,
substation.
From St. Louis. Go ahead, sorry.
go ahead.
It's like, do I get to
Cameron.
talk tonight?
He started it.
Ameren has an electric substation on the property, but in addition to that, there is a long-distance electrical transmission line that crosses the property just north of that. And this is the one with the really high power poles, you might call them, for these big electric lines. So you have both of those on the current property. Just north of that, there is a line of, there's a mature tree stand, and that's where this cell tower is proposed to go. So the cell tower would be 154 feet in height, and with the related ground equipment. It's actually, it would meet setback requirements except for towards the north for the right-of-way for Highway 61. It's only 145 feet from that right-of-way, so it's a little bit short of meeting that setback requirement, that setback distance up to the north. But I would say that between the tower site and Highway 61, there's all these mature trees. I was speaking with the applicants earlier, just before the meeting, and they mentioned that from Highway 61, it's almost all screened because of these trees, but there's a sliver when you're driving on the road, you can look over, you can see the proposed tower site. So as part of the conditional use permit process, the county council is allowed to make adjustments to setback and spacing requirements for towers, and that's what's being proposed in this case. Before the meeting, again, the applicants were stating that one of the reasons that the tower, Ameren is dictating that the tower be located here and not elsewhere on the property, is that there's overhead facilities, there's underground facilities, and wiring or wires or whatever, and then towards the east of the utility substation, that's Ameren's expansion area. So they don't want it located there. So Ameren is dictating that there's going to be a tower, you know, if there's going to be a tower on the property, it's got to be right where they're locating it here. In the packet on page, well, memo's doesn't have page numbers, but on the concept plan, there's a yellow outline showing the location of the tower in relation to the existing tree line, the overhead wires, and then the electrical substation. I would also say that, I don't know what the purpose is exactly, how it's used, but on the property, there's all of these poles. They're not the really tall power pole, transmission poles, but there's lots of other wooden poles as well. So when you look across the property, you see it, honestly, it has a utilitarian look to it. And so I think that factors into the CUP criteria. I'm not going to go over the CUP criteria specifically, because I think the analysis covers that pretty well in your staff memos. The only other thing I would mention is that there was a conditional use permit application on the property to the west a few years ago. And that CUP application was denied by the county council in part because the Highway 61 is going to be widened one day. And so we looked at the same question in this case. In the previous case, half of the property literally was going to be taken up by the future right-of-way expansion, and it was going to take out some of their buildings. In this case, we looked at the location of the proposed tower in relation to the right-of-way, and this would not be, the tower would not be located within the right-of-way expansion area. So that, I think that's helpful to know for this situation. So county staff recommends approval with specific conditions to address potential land use impacts, and there's 7 proposed conditions.
Any questions for staff? Hearing, oh, you have one, go ahead.
So I'm looking at this, this diagram you have here. If and when the highway was expanded, then the tower would not be within the right-of-way, but would there become an issue with like the fall zone?
It doesn't meet, what they're proposing now is that it wouldn't meet that 1-to-1 setback ratio, and it still wouldn't meet that 1-to-1 setback ratio.
Would that cause any kind of, you know, issue as far as danger that it might fall on the highway, or?
One thing in the staff analysis we looked at was, are there any structures within the so-called, the theoretical fall zone? And, or would there be any roadways? And the answer to both is no. There's no structures, there's no roadway proposed within that area. There's going to be, conceptually, there's going to be future outer roads added to Highway 61, but.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll ask the applicants to come forward. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings or the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Russell Bean. I'm with Selective Solutions. My address is 340 Marshall Road, Valley Park, Missouri, 63088.
Go ahead, Mr. Bean.
I'm here tonight representing Ameren UE. Discussed this a little bit at the last hearing we had a few months ago, but it's just a quick review. Ameren, Missouri, along with almost every major power company in the United States, is building their own private LTE networks. The purpose of this network is for their monitoring equipment, and then they have now electric meter reading throughout their coverage area, but they also use it to monitor their equipment, their transformers, their distribution lines, and what has happened over the course as this has grown, they've outgrown the private phone networks, your Verizon, your T-Mobiles, your AT&Ts, and what's happening is you've gone to thousands and thousands of units, and they're moving to a private network for capacity's sake. Also, for as the networks evolve, right now they're at 5G, they're already talking about 6G. 6G is probably 4 years away before they start. They're already having world conferences on 6G. The equipment that is functioning at 5G may not function at 6G. A good example of this is private security networks. When the home monitoring system were all run on LTE, and when they upgraded 5G, they sunset 3G LTE, and when those were getting ready to turn off, all these companies were like, uh-oh, and they had to upgrade every piece of equipment on their network. This also happened with a lot of educational equipment. By having their own network, Ameren UE is able to lengthen the age and usefulness of their equipment. They're expecting to get 12 to 15 years out of their equipment. If they were on a private network and that network was upgraded, their equipment would suddenly be obsolete and they would have to rebuild an entire network. Also, security is another concern. They're under Homeland Security. Importance of maintaining their own network and not having their network on a public system. We are proposing, I'm going to move to the aerial. This laser. Our proposed site is right here. As you can see the transmission lines. And this area to the east is, there is underground Ameren equipment, there's vaults, and there's transmission lines. So it really did force us up to the north part of the property. We have a minimum distance from these transmission lines. And so to meet the minimum distance from those transmission lines, we had to put our proposed tower right here.
Just curious, what is that minimum distance that Ameren requires?
50 feet.
50 feet?
These are pictures of the entrance to the property. As staff mentioned, there's a long driveway that leads to. This is from the furthest point of the furthest eastern point of the property looking in. Our tower will sit behind this tree here. There isn't a whole lot of visibility from 61 and then the adjacent parcels. There would be almost no visibility of the base of the structure. There's already, as you can see, existing vertical structures. This vertical structure here is just across, that vertical structure is right here. That is just slightly shorter than our proposed tower. So we're adding an additional vertical structure, but there's additional vertical structures on the site. So we're adding to the vertical structure, but it's not breaking the horizon. It's not the first vertical structure on the property. To answer just for sake of the staff's question, the metal lines, the metal structures are transmission lines that takes it across distance, and then the wooden poles are distribution lines. It comes off the substation, and then it goes to the wood pole, and from the wood pole goes to where the end user is going. Those wood poles come and go. As this area grows, there is proposed expansion just for the future growth to provide additional power. We do pass slope, FAA slope. And then we agree with all the conditions as proposed. This is going to be a very hidden, the base is going to be hidden. It's for use for Ameren to help upkeep and monitor their electrical system, and be happy to answer any other questions.
Now, this will be totally owned and totally solely used by Ameren?
It is open for co-location. Does the code requires it be made available for co-location? They are making it available for co-location. So it would be available if anybody needed additional coverage in the area.
Okay.
But it would be owned and operated by Ameren.
And if it falls to the west on those transmission lines, it's Ameren's problem?
That's correct. However,
That's what I was asking about the 50 feet.
these are, this is built to the minimum standards as required by IBC, the latest building code. And as these revisions get stricter and stricter and stricter, there's a lot of towers that were built when I started in 1996 that wouldn't pass the current revision of the IBC. Yeah. And that is, there's a lot of cooks, there's a lot of chefs at Ameren, and the gentleman that is in charge of the distribution lines or the transmission lines is, his biggest concern is that this be built to not even have the possibility of it failing. And that's just good business practice anyway.
I wouldn't want to be the one that caused the lights to go out in Winsville one night, so.
I live there, you're right.
Yeah.
I live right down there.
Any other questions for the applicant? Nope. Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing for CUP 23-01. Anyone wishing to speak? You solemnly swear or affirm that you'll tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings on the pains and penalties of perjury.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, mailing address P.O. Box 1535 in O'Fallon. Basically, the applicant is asking for a 13 variance of the setback on the western property line and a 54-foot variance to the northern property line. I didn't hear the applicant or county staff talk about our 60-foot height for one user and 80-foot height for two users, which are codified code section 405.505.B.13 states. And so I'd like this commission to be consistent and to make sure that we're treating all applicants on the same even keel playing field. Last month, up on Towers Road, a cell phone tower with Section 405.505B.13 failed this commission 0 to 7 in terms of rezoning and 0 to 7 for a CUP, conditional use permit. I don't know how it's going to go before county council. I'm trying to defeat that plan. I am also opposed to this application tonight for the following reasons that I'd like to get into. The staff recommendation has a maximum height that the telecommunication tower shall be 154 foot above the adjacent grade. And I'm opposed to that because we're treating this applicant differently from the applicant from last month that was treated. And in that case, that applicant was going to have two cell phone tower carriers located on there, which our codified code has a maximum height of 80 feet. Then they asked for a conditional use permit of additional 5 feet that was denied by this commission with a recommendation of the county council. And here we're talking about one user, and automatically they're allowed 154 feet. So the setback from the roadway requirement of the 145.3 feet, that's what the proposal would be. I'm just not buying that. I'm also not buying the 1 mile spacing distance. I'm not sure if that's been calculated correctly or not. Section 405.505.A.1 and 405.505.B.6 of the county codified code. Can this power utility, Ameren UE in this case, can they co-locate their towers on existing equipment within the property? I'm not sure if it would, if you put those on the towers when you move electricity through that tower, they could turn it off for a week or so or some type of period and commingle an existing location, or on the substation if they looked in that possibility. And what's really concerning is taxpayers. US 61 right-of-way, roadway expansion concerns, as Mr. Myers stated just about a year ago, another conditional use permit was denied by this commission for a tower-type situation. And in this case, we don't know what the plans are going to be. The money is probably 5 to 6 years out, but it's not fair for taxpayers to have to pay for the right-of-way. And I'd like staff and the county county transportation department and MoDOT to negotiate with Ameren UE so they don't come out smelling like a rose and making a land profit, and that they donate any of the right-of-way usages for any service roads or any expansion of US Highway 61 as part of this application. There's some landscaping concerns. The trees are mature, so that buffer is already in place. I'd like to see some tree planting, like on some of the storage facilities, with the white pines that grow fast, and some of the fencing that are site-proof and that you can't see in. And a lot of the cell phone towers around our county, I've visited some of them and looked for emergency contacts. Some of that information is missing. I'm not sure if it's a requirement of the Federal Communications Commission or our county 911 service, but I think that should be a condition of this application, that emergency contact, that somebody answers the telephone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, be instilled in case there's a car accident, in case some of the equipment gets damaged, or in case there's a windstorm, and in case of an O'Fallon Tower location where the entire, not the entire fence, part of the fence fell down. And I visited there trying to find a telephone number to that cell phone company or who owned that tower, and it was not presented or was not available to the public in a readily available fashion. I had to go to the assessors and the recorder of deeds to get the information, and I sent them a letter. I still haven't heard back from them, and that's been 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks since the windstorm. And the final condition that I'd like to see placed on this condition is that if this tower is abandoned, that a $100,000 bond for demolition and removal of the structure be in place. The city of O'Fallon has done this in a location on South Missouri Highway K and some other tower locations throughout O'Fallon. And I think that that's only something fair to do. As you all know, these utility companies or limited partnerships form LLCs, limited liability partnerships, corporations, and they do that for a reason. That's so they can walk away and they don't have any assets or any money tied up. And guess what? If that facility is abandoned or becomes an eyesore, you can't go after them because it has no assets tied to that company, and they just wash their hands of their environmental constraints and their responsibility. And so I'd ask that you put that condition, because we all know technology is rapidly growing and rapidly expanding on a yearly basis. For those reasons, I'm opposed to this tower. I think that if this commission would approve this tower, you're setting our county up for a lawsuit with the previous applicant from last month's application that was denied by this commission for rezoning a conditional use permit. For those reasons, I ask that you vote no on this tower. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing for CUP 23-21. Ask the applicant to come back. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Hearing none?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for staff, comments?
Robert, is there an 80-foot height restriction on this? I assume there isn't, because we aren't addressing that issue.
Right. Yeah, in the agricultural district, there's not a height limit. It just has to be set back at least the height of the tower.
Perfect.
Which is the difference between the other property.
This,
that was
yeah,
zoned
the
different.
section he cited has to do with commercial
Right.
office or C1 neighborhood district, not
Yes.
agriculture
And the
district.
one on Towers is a residential area.
Yeah, this is not
Kinda
someone's
fits in the
backyard.
landscape.
Right.
This fits.
I
in the
understand. I just wanted to be
landscape.
clear, but thank you.
Yeah. Any other,
I'm just happy we finally found one that isn't in someone's backyard. It makes it a little easier.
I feel the same way. I said,
Me too.
this may be
And
here's
this
where we
area
like
needs
you to
it.
put them.
Right, we need to have this as an example for storage units and towers.
And it looks
area
better
looks
than the
better.
distribution line, so it's an
Yeah.
aesthetic improvement for the tower.
any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve CUP 23-21, subject to the recommendations, conditions set forth in the staff report. Is there a motion? Mr. Cornwell made the motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Mayor made the second. Ms. Kirschner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm?
Yes.
Mr. Shell?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Bamer?
yes.
Mrs. Barr?
Yes.
I didn't catch myself. Mr. Cornwell?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The application passes.
It's okay. Move counts, both of them.
Okay, we're down to approval of the minutes from the August 16th, 2023 meeting. Is there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the August 16th, 2023 meeting minutes? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to approve said minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the August 16th, 2023 regular meeting. All in favor, sign aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Planning and Zoning Division update.
I don't have any update tonight unless you have any questions.
Any questions for Robert?
Well, we had
Did anything come out of the work session
Yeah.
for the master plan?
that's the update.
Yeah, thank you. So the county council asked for a work session on the county master plan, and it lasted about 45 minutes, and mostly consisted of a presentation by county staff providing basically master plan process with master plans in the past, and then the master plan process going forward. And so it was honestly, it was pretty much an overview of the way the master plan process works and what's going to be happening shortly. So county staff is actually working on drafting a request for proposals for a consultant to assist the county to update the county's master plan and update the Unified Development Ordinance, with the intent of beginning this year, should the county council approve the contract on their consent agenda. So the intent would be to start this year and then probably complete that in next year, 2024. So just to recap, under the county's charter and the ordinances, there's a master plan steering committee that does a lot of the direction in terms of the preparation of the master plan, but the Planning and Zoning Commission also plays a role as well.
Any other questions? Hearing none, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
A motion been made and seconded. All in favor, sign aye. Aye.